Good evening, guys. It's Georgie Boy, and I'm here to talk about non-league football and how it is so underrated these days, right? Instead of going to watch, right, Premier League football all the time, or even Championship football, depending on what team you support or whatever, right? Why don't you go down to your local non-league team, right, and give them the support, right? Because non-league football is one of those things, right, where they don't even have under soil heating, right? So every single supporter's money counts, right? It doesn't matter if you pay like, £3 to £5 to get in, right? That £3 to £5 is going to their club and benefiting their club, right? Like, apart from Newcastle, like, don't get us wrong, it's Newcastle first and foremost, but I go to North Shields games as well, right? And I'm telling you, right, it's not just like one or two old men that go, right, and no one else bothers to go, right? Sometimes we have attendances, when it comes to the derbies with Whitley Bay, we have like attendances of like 300 people sometimes, and that is amazing for non-league football. The community, non-league football, it brings back the community and spirit into things, you know what I mean? And like, don't get us wrong, Premier League teams, it does the same, but you've got to remember Newcastle is a big club, right? It's got people all around the northeast that support Newcastle, if not more nowadays, right? And whilst North Shields, right, it's predominantly the people who are from or live in North Shields that go to the games. And it just brings back that passion. It brings back, there's a real sense of family when it comes to these games. Going having a pint with your mates and all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking, just convince your mates to maybe don't just to go to Premier League games, right? Or go to North Shields games. If you live in the East End in Newcastle, you go either Heaton Stannerton, Newcastle Benfield, right? It's good just to put money. It's good to know where your money's going to, and it's that's why I did it. And then when at Newcastle, in the Mike Ashley days, when Newcastle weren't doing very well, non-league football rise because a lot of people, because North Shields went to Wembley back in 2015. I was 16 at the time, fresh out of high school with the lads, and it brought back a sense of what football is all about. And don't get us wrong, I still attended Newcastle games, but at the end of the day, people, regardless of, I know people want a football team that succeeds and wins trophies, but with non-league, there's a sense of localism, well, I don't think localism is a word, but there's a sense of community and the compassion, and it just brings everybody together more so than the top flight Premier League clubs would. You know what I mean? If football's not just, football's very corporate these days, as I said in one of my introduction videos to YouTube. And I think, like look at Man United. Man United is a very it's has a global fan base, and it's built that up over the decades. But I just there's a lot of clubs like your Man U's, your Chelsea's, and all that. And don't get us wrong, they won a lot and all that sort of stuff. I'm not disrespecting them in that regard, but I think that it's just good to have a club that you can pop out that's 5 minutes down the road, and and it doesn't cost so much, because football is a working man's game, right? The majority of football fans, right, are normal everyday working people. It's not like other sports that I can't really give a comparison to other sports because I only follow football and I do running personally, but they're the only sports I follow really. But yeah, it's football is a working man's game, and the person who maybe has a rubbish day at work, goes to relieve himself by going to the matches. That's what football's all about, and go with his mates, socialising. It's not just a game of football. It's not just the two. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but it's not just about the grass and the two nets and 11 aside. It's more, it brings a community together. It's about it doesn't even have to be the most fancy stadium to go. It's about just getting out there and socializing, being with your friends and having a laugh and just talking about like loads, just like random stuff, you know what I mean? And that's that's what I love about it. It's not just, I can't wait until my team wins. It's about going out. It's like non-league football. It brings all that, all the singing, all the camaraderie and all the banter and all that. And that's one of the reasons why I just love non-league football. And even if North Shields is not playing, there's I used to go to Gateshead games, and it was it was the same, the banter, the all that sort of stuff. It was amazing. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like non-league. I've even been to Heaton Stand games. I've been to Newcastle Benfield games, and they both have an amazing fanatical fan base. Like you've got like, I remember when North Shields were playing Newcastle Benfield, and the Newcastle Benfield youth ultras came, and they were setting off pyros and all that. As much as we hated it, right? Like, you're gonna hate it because there's always a bit of rivalry, and that's good. It's good to have a little bit of tension in the air, a bit of back and forward sing songs and all that kind of stuff. But you had young kids that were really enthusiastic about it, like, well, not young kids, but like, teenagers 17, 18, that kind of thing, that were like really enthusiastic about the game, and and just singing, and all that sort of stuff. It was great, and yeah, it's good. It's good to see that. It's good to see, that kind of kids have, well, kids, grown-ups, old men, women, just to be so dedicated, you know what I mean? And that's what non-league football does. You're allowed to do stuff, you're allowed to jump about, you're allowed to drink in the stands, and it's all amazing. So yeah, that I think, just if whoever you are, up and down the country, and it doesn't matter, get yourself down to your non-league football team and support them, right? Because they could do with the money. And obviously, let's say with the top-notch Premier League teams doing so well, right? Non-league football does suffer. So, every once in a while, pop yourself down to your local non-league team and just give them a support. Yeah, and that's it. But anyways, thanks for watching, right? And I'll see you all later. Have a cracking afternoon, and good night and God bless, all right? See you later, lads and lasses.